Hello, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us today on Hustle and Honey. We are interviewing Grace. She is a Pilates instructor and just an overall amazing human. I recently did a solar gazing meditation with her, which was just so phenomenal. What an amazing experience. We talked about longevity, lineage, authentic marketing, and I do want to let you guys know that part of Hustle and Honey is my photography business consulting, which is an opportunity for small businesses to get their photography, a little bit of education, a little bit of extra resources. And so if you're interested in that, please do reach out to us. But without any further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Grace.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going very good. How is it going with you?
Good. I think I have all the technical things working in order over here.
Great.
Yay.
Great.
Well, welcome to our podcast. So we love to get to know our guests and have you guys introduce yourself. So we would love for you to kind of just share a little bit about us, obviously who you are, what you're doing, all that good stuff. And then we'll get into some questions.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Grace Tears, and I am a Pilates and yoga and fitness instructor. I've been in the fitness industry for 13 years. I owned a large Pilates fitness studio in North Carolina for 10 years with multiple business partners, multiple employees, expansion studios, and that was an incredible experience. And when COVID hit, I went completely online and did a huge pivot of my career. And that has been like kind of mind-blowing and unbelievable, and just like accepting what comes to me. And I am now taking my online presence that was a happenstance because of COVID and really taking ownership of the fact that, all right, this is a space that I really, I can really own. And so I'm expanding myself as an entrepreneur now within the fitness industry, yoga, Pilates, and health and wellness into the online platform. So, and this is like a very recent kind of endeavor. I've been teaching online for like 3 years now, but I'm trying to grow it into more of a structure in a business. This is recent. And so so you're catching me right at the ground up here.
Yes, totally. But it does sound like you have had like plenty of experience over the past, like you said, like past 10 years, like you've already owned and operated like a physical brick and mortar space, doing the same service. So I feel like it's so interesting to hear the transition from being like a physical. I feel like most people start off with their like, at least in my, I don't know, in my social circle, it seems like a lot of people start by like doing some things online, kind of doing like little pop, and then like their goal is to have a brick and mortar space. Whereas it's like the opposite, where you're like, okay, I have this and I know those challenges and what came along with that. And I'm not doing that. I'm doing this instead.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did do independent contractor work for years, and then came into the ownership of the brick and mortar, and you know, coming back into a space of just kind of, yeah, having more autonomy, more ownership over what it is that I'm cultivating for myself, and just like taking some really profound and hard lessons that I've learned and putting them into something that is going to be uniquely mine.
Yeah. And that is the thing that I like want to tap into with everybody that we interview, is their ability to take something like the lessons they learned and alchemize it into something that's going to serve really everybody. Like my goal with this podcast is that we can take lessons that you've learned and other people can implement them, even if they're not necessarily in the same industry. And really that's kind of the point, is not being in the same industry, and how like there is such a big crossover between just owning a business, even if all the services are different. So I love that you mentioned that. Okay. So I would like to start off with, we kind of talked about how you got here, but like why Pilates, why health and wellness? Like why are you in that field? What brought you there?
Well, It was something that I sort of ended up stumbling into. I grew up as a classically trained dancer and spent some years, professionally working with that. And Pilates was a very natural transition for my career from that. And it was a really eye-opening experience to do something physical with my body that then also felt healthful and felt like it was good for my body. Dance is beautiful and it's expressive, but nobody's really that concerned about how healthy you are, like what's the longevity of your hip sockets,
Yes.
And so it felt like a natural place where my mind was already molded of how I think about things, and then figuring out how to make some money at that, but then also have a flexible schedule. And now I am just like, I am 100% on the train of longevity. It is just, we are living longer and longer, and improving quality of life as we age is like literally one of my number one things. Like I work with kind of an older population. I work with people of all ages, but I definitely have a lot of people 60 plus, 70 plus. And when they're saying that, like, oh, I fell at the airport and I just popped back up again, and everybody was so surprised that I was able to get up on my own. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, you can't, like, I feel like you won't be able to see me later on this video, but I'm like shaking my head yes to all of this, because as like in my own realm, I care about like the arts, but I also have such a passion for wellness in terms of like, I want to be around until I'm 102. That's like what I tell all of my students. Okay. I tell everybody that. And I'm like, yeah, I take my multivitamins. I want to be 102. But like, I really do. And that number doesn't matter if you don't feel good when you get there. So that is like the interest that I have in it. And like, how can you get there and feel good when you arrive?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And I have, with working with various different age brackets, I have noticed that how you treat yourself in your 20s and 30s pretty much doesn't show up until you're in your 50s and 60s. Like you can kind of coast through most of your 40s and even some of your 50s and be like, yeah, it's great. And but it's like kind of that it's like, but then also at this, like, so definitely like creating healthy wellness habits now, but then also like, it's so profound to see people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s actually making physical progress in a phase of life where society is telling them, oh, things are just downhill from here. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, but 3 years ago, you couldn't hold a plank. And now you're doing 10 push-ups at a time and you're 73. What? Like,
yes. And there is so much room for growth. People definitely subscribe to that belief that like at a certain age, there's limitations, or at a certain age, there's restrictions. And like, when I get here, I'm going to feel like this. And like, I just am such a rebel. I like refuse to believe any of those myths. And I don't want to do that. I want to like feel good in my body every stage, no matter how old I get. And yeah, just not believe the lies. Like you can always strength train. You can get better. And like setting yourself up for success now, like today is the best day to start that process.
yes.
Yes. Love all that. Okay. So off that tangent and back to business. What would you say is going really well in your business right now? Like what is like something that is just so easy? You feel like you're in the flow.
So and I thought about, because you sent me your question list first, and this was a question that I thought about, and what I am really is going phenomenally well is my skill set. I have come into a space where I feel really confident in what I am providing and the impact that I can have on people, and the ability that I've had to develop this skill through a screen, like specifically because I'm going online, right? Like this is something that I'm like, oh wow, like I'm good at translating movement as a form of fitness and health and wellness, but I've really cultivated this ability to translate it to people in a way that creates a confidence in themselves also. So they don't need to be reliant on me for sessions necessarily, but that they can also create their own capacities and strengths and practices. And so that's where I'm like, oh, that is going phenomenally well.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, yeah. Okay, let me see what else I want to ask you while I'm here. I feel like we kind of touched on some of these as we've been chatting. What do you think the sweetest aspect of owning your own business is? That's kind of right. That's the point. Like, I feel like we have our own businesses and we can get caught up in like the doing the thing that we don't step back and realize like, I am successful in these aspects and this is why. So I would love to hear a little bit about what you're doing that feels successful and then kind of just your own definition of success, I think will be wrapped up in that answer.
So that's a really good question. Let me see. Jumped around a little bit, and where was my answer to that? So one of the sweetest aspects of owning my own business is making my own schedule, being my own boss, and curating my clientele. Now, when you were just voicing that question, though, those are the things that I pre-wrote down that I was like, okay, I think about this. When you just voiced that question, though, where I feel like there's such an aspect of success in this is that I have clients that I have been working with for 15 years.
Yeah.
And for me, that is success. And it's going really well. I'm able to maintain these clients and like keep them rolling, keep them progressing, but also that I feel like that reflects back to me the level of success based on like, they wouldn't keep coming. They wouldn't keep paying. I keep increasing my rates every 3 years and they're fine with it. So that feels really successful to me. And then actually tagging on, okay, I'm my own boss. I get to make my own schedule because these people are with me for 15 years. Not all of my clients have been with me for 15 years, but they're super understanding about the fact that it's like, I gotta change the schedule around, or there's a cancellation last minute, like something popped up. There's so much understanding and empathy and compassion between us that it's like I've developed a clientele that you feel like family.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like formulating my own response to that because what I'm hearing is that you feel successful because they trust you. So cultivating that trust with your clients.
Yes.
And also, yeah, just because that's something that comes into my businesses a lot too, is just the human aspect of that connection. So like they recognize that you're a real human and you provide this service, but then they're like, oh, of course your schedule may change. Of course your life may change. Of course the cost of living does change. And like they're on that ride with you. And so I think that's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is a challenge either with the things you're teaching or with the way you're delivering it, or with maybe it's back end businessy things that have nothing to do with like your skill set is your strength. So like maybe it has something to do with that aspect of it. But what would you say is a big challenge in your business right now and how are you navigating it?
Okay. So I like this question because it's going to circle back to, like my skill set. Like I feel super confident about my skill set and what I offer. The challenge is, okay, how do I market this to reach a broader audience? Because I know I can make a bigger impact than I am right now. Like I've got a great client list, but it's like 20, And so it's like, okay, how do I make this 200, And so, and it is a combination of legit just marketing skills, systematically.
I don't know.
It's just putting things in a system. And so it's like, okay, you're marketing and you have like, you create a system of like regular emails or social media posts or like people you're reaching out to and things of that nature. But then also there is that real aspect of like, again, owning that confidence within the space that you're in and being like, what I have to offer has value and I'm going to shout it from the mountaintop and feel okay about that. Really? Is that okay? Yes. But it's those conversations that there's a very administrative, practical aspect of marketing. And there's a very psychological, mental aspect of marketing also that's hard. That's hard.
It is hard. It's hard to be mostly a one person business. Like, of course, all of us have our own support system. So maybe we're running the business ourselves, but we usually have people that support us and help us out. But like what would you say is your favorite marketing tool? Because that is something that I feel like is practical that everyone can use. And I'm curious what you feel is your most successful marketing tool. Like,
I mean, so far, my most successful marketing tool has been word of mouth. Like, and so for me, and that's actually, I really, because that is like bringing to awareness, like I'm having an epiphany right now as you're saying this, because like, as I'm going into like a broader space of marketing, you know, it's like, I know that testimonials are something that is impactful to be able to put on your website or put in a social media post. Like social media is great, but like legitimately, like most of my clients have come from word of mouth from my current clients. And so that aspect of like, asking these people, these clients who are like, they've been working with you for years, like, hey, can you do a write-up of your experience with me? Can you do a video? And like following up on that, because nobody's really gonna do it. They'll say, okay, they're gonna do it. You have to usually ask them like what, like 3-4 times to get one of those things out. But it's like, stay consistent with that, because it's like, it's just like, you're bringing awareness right now to the fact that it's like, okay, yeah, that's my most effective tool thus far. And so, and that's something I can pull on. So thank you.
Sure.
That's really cool.
We love that. So I don't know if you heard previous episodes with me and Meesh, but we talked about that word of mouth. Actually, you might not have heard it because I don't know if it actually posted yet. It's an upcoming episode, but word of mouth businesses. Like, we really think that is one of the strongest tools that people have, and it's underutilized because people just pop on social media and they think they can just post to Instagram and they're going to hit their audience and their people, or they could, make a Facebook ad and they're going to get their targeted demographics. But like, honestly, like starting with where you are at with who you know, and then building out from there is just such a beautiful organic way to build a business. And it might take longer depending on your ability to follow up and to shout it from the rooftops and your confidence in that. But yeah, I agree. I think that is one of the most beneficial marketing tools, is just connecting with people and doing a good job. And then they're going to tell their friend and they're going to tell their friend and that friend's going to tell someone. And then you have people who know you and, respect what you're doing.
Yeah. And reflecting back too, again, to the fact that like, I think one of the greatest successes is the trust that I've developed in people, is that like when you're building, when you get a first time client, but they're referred from somebody like that already trusts you, there's already a certain level of trust that's kind of there. And so, yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Love that. Let me see what else I want to ask you. Okay. So some other things that I'm curious about. Let's jump around to industry. Is there somebody else in your industry that you look up to that you're getting either, it could be someone that you learn from, or somebody that you're currently learning from, or someone you would like to learn from?
No. I thought about this because I thought about this because I was like, there are Pilates instructors in this world that I'm like, you're an amazing Pilates instructor and I love what you do. And I would love to teach more like you, and I will train with that person. And I will let the way someone teaches influence the way I teach. But in terms of industry, people I'm learning from, and this is going to reflect back to, because one of the questions you asked me is, what is your definition of success? And I decided that was freedom of expression. And I'm going through a phase right now where I am really trying to come into this space of my authentic self and my authentic expression within what I offer. And kind of almost, now listen, I'm not saying I probably couldn't use a freaking business coach. Okay. Like I could probably use a coach, but there's an aspect that it's like, not having that example to be looking towards creates a lot of potentials for where my brain can just go naturally. And so that's where I thought about this. I'm like, there are definitely Pilates instructors, specifically how they teach, that is something that I admire in terms of how they're running a business, what type of business they're running. I'm just trying to do something that feels so, that I want to feel so unique to me. And I'm kind of almost actively not seeking for examples and trying to just, I might be floundering a little bit, but I feel like I'm also learning a lot.
No, I'm hearing things that you're saying, and my brain is going like a mile a minute, and I'm like, oh, I have something to share. I feel like a couple things. So I feel like I put this question on here thinking that people will be like, yeah, this is someone that I'm looking up to. And as I've done a few of these interviews, I've realized that like, it's very liberating to not have anybody be a model for what you're doing. Like and it's probably because you are doing something unique. So there's no one else that's doing it like you. And I feel like as a photographer, I will often cut people that I follow on Instagram that are photographers. Like I'll either unfollow them or I'll hide them or whatever, because I don't want to end up shooting just like them just because I like it. Like, I think we are combinations of things we see around us. We see things, we pick up a little treasure. Yes, you like this Pilates teacher, so you picked up a little treasure of the way they do things and you put that in your toolbox. But like, I don't want to be replicating anybody. So I don't need to be following anybody that's doing the same thing or similar thing that I'm doing. And then another part of that is that I spent so much time, because I do a little bit of everything, I spent so much time believing that I was like not doing it right. Because I wasn't like niching down. And so niching down is like my nemesis. And I get why people do it and I get what they're trying to do with it. And if you have a niche and that's cool for you, but for me, my niche is like not niching. Like I don't, I want to expand, and maybe at some point I will contract, but right now I'm in a very expansive place. And so
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say, so I guess, do you have anybody that you are learning from that you do like? I know it's kind of what I just asked you, but I mean, like, is there like another Pilates instructor that you're like, I just love what they're doing? Is there anybody else that you would say that you have taken little treasures from, or also no?
I mean, like I definitely am blessed that my Pilates training has been like pretty top notch. And so I've had access to some of like, the most experienced trainers in the world. And so like, I mean, I'll just name some names that maybe mean something, maybe don't.
Yeah, or but like where you did your training, like maybe a little bit of that. Like if somebody was curious, I mean, I don't know if that's something like that you do, or like how would somebody get into Pilates if they're like curious, like where could they start? Who could they look up? Like,
Okay, that's a pretty broad question, but I was lucky enough to stumble into it's the Ramana's Pilates Institute in New York City, and basically Joe Pilates is the man that invented Pilates. It was his name, and he passed his lineage on to Ramana, and so I'm what's called a classical lineage Pilates instructor, because I am a third generation Pilates instructor down from Joe Pilates. And so I trained the teachers that I was training under. They had all been Pilates teachers for 30, 40 years. And then some of the clients that were at the studio were so old, they like remembered working with like Clara Pilates, and it's just like, okay, that's inspiring. And so I have definitely had some amazing access to instructors through that way. Classical Pilates is a worthwhile endeavor to look into if you're looking into Pilates. It is a very challenging and regimented program of learning Pilates. It's really old school. There's not a lot of leniency. So it's very challenging, but it is very rewarding in the end of it. And then I just have access. There are some like really like Pilates, like bombshells, that are just like big forces in the market, like Kathy Ross Nash. She's someone that I trained under for many, many years, and she has her own program. She's amazing. And she's like, God, honestly, I'm not going to say her age because I don't know how old she is really, but she's definitely older than 57. Okay. And she still is like rocking the work. I mean, she's a really good example of how Pilates is like a great contributor towards the idea of longevity. And she's built a lot up for herself. Mari Windsor is another woman that she's passed away now. She got ALS, but I had the opportunity to train from her and speak with her. And a lot of people know Windsor Pilates as like the Pilates infomercials and DVDs from like the 90s. Like she really did something so insanely cutting edge for the time, like to bring Pilates to like the household, like, and she worked in Hollywood with like big celebrities and stuff. But she did something that she got a lot of flack for, like, oh, how dare you like water down Pilates and put it on DVDs and these infomercials and yeah, she got a lot of flack for it. But it's a really good example of like, she didn't compromise the work. She treaded water in the direction that she felt she could. And also, like she was saying, she's like, I had the resources. I had friends in the industry who did videography, who did audio, who did production. She's like, why would I not take this opportunity? And it's just like how limiting we can make our beliefs based on like mentalities, when it's like, okay, but look at what's in front of you. Just do it. So yeah, so that was definitely, she was a huge influence, and she still really is, even though like she's no longer around, she still really is a near and dear to my heart.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I pressed you on that question more, because I learned so many new little things just now. Like I didn't know that there was lineage for Pilates. Of course, that makes sense that there's going to be always like somebody who started this. It's a newer modality. And so it makes sense that it would be like, it's almost like a grandfather. Like you're just so close to it. You're so close to that source. So that's amazing, first of all. Second of all, I love the example that you're saying with her, because she, like you said, she used what she had in front of her. So it was using with what you've got where you're at. And that is like a big part of what I believe that we can all do, is like using your resources that are in front of you. And because I see it very similar to what you are doing, because she was able to do that with like the DVDs and bring it to the household. It seems like that's very similar to what you're doing. Like all you need is a way to connect. All you need is like, a computer or a smartphone, like whatever, to meet with you online and do your virtual courses. So that's like, it makes sense why you would.
I have never made that connection. That happened just right now, where I was like, I am doing what Mari Windsor did.
You're doing that. And so that makes perfect sense why you chose her as somebody. Okay. Well, I love that. I love that for us. I love that.
For us. That's great.
Okay. So I'm looking back at my questions. Like, did I miss anything that I wanted to ask you? Yes, I did. Because I'm going to ask you two things. One, I know if Meesh was here on this call, she would ask you what your first job was, because that's one of her favorite questions. So I'll just ask you, what was your very first job?
As a counter girl at a pizza shop. The name of the pizza place was Pizza Bella, and we were the Bella girls.
Cute.
And I was a pizza girl.
I love this. Okay, fantastic. We just like to get a nice little, backstory on who you are. And then the thing that I like to ask every guest is, what is one thing you would tell yourself to get you to where you are sooner?
Yeah. Okay. The quicker, and I wrote this because I liked this one, the quicker you can be your most authentic self, the greater everything will be. And it's some of the people that do mentor with me, one of the phrases that I say to them is, you corner the market on yourself. Nobody's going to do what you do the way you do it as best as you do it, as long as you're staying in alignment with you. And the more you can stay in alignment with you, the more that's going to freaking resonate with people. People love, it's so rare to see people really embracing and expressing their authentic self. It's one of a profound marketing tool. And that it is just, we are all such unique and special and wonderful beings. And it can be really hard to embrace that, especially in industries that are steeping with comparison and competition. But the thing is that we're all in this life together, and being your most authentic self is gonna, even if you don't end up making a bunch of money, you're gonna feel so good at the end of the day. And I feel like I can guarantee you that is your greatest chance at making substantial money, is just being yourself, owning yourself, feeling confident in that space.
Yeah, people are attracted to that, right? Like if you are your authentic self, they're going to feel safer in your presence being themselves, and that is liberating. And if you're in a service industry, they're going to trust you. So it's like,
Well, and then I will say also on the flip side of that is it then also, it is a way to kind of, you'll pare down people who don't want to work with you,
attract, repel.
Exactly. The people who don't want to work with you will become apparent. And because you're in a space of authenticity, there's a sense of acceptance of that. It's okay. Yeah. Like that's fine. They don't have to work with me. And it's like, you don't want to work with them anyways, necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Okay. I'm so glad you took time to talk with me today. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you took the time with me. This is wonderful.
Yay. Okay. So where can people find you if they want to do Pilates with you, or tell us where people can find you.
Oh, okay. So, website is still coming, but it is gracetiers.com. My last name is Tiers. It's gracetiers.com. And other than that, social media, I'm at with Grace, the number 4 Grace, with Grace for Grace, on Instagram. And so that social media is like a really easy way to access me, or just like bookmark the website. It'll be up soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will put all of those in the notes so people don't even have to necessarily remember things. They can just click our notes and find you that way. But perfect. Okay. I love that. Yay. Thank you so much, Grace. It's so lovely to chat with you.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to chat with you too. Looking forward to doing it again soon.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope you loved this conversation with Grace. Don't forget to join us next week. We're going to be chatting with Nicole Adler. She is from Mindful Skin House. She's an amazing esthetician. She also does 222 sound healing, and that is going to be a lovely conversation next week. We're going to get super woo, so please check back then. But otherwise, we love you. Thanks for joining us. And please don't forget to subscribe and give us that 5-star review so that more people can find us. Thank you again. Bye.